All right, I will begin now. So welcome everyone to this first breakout session. Thank you for coming so quickly after the plenary and just grabbing your snacks. So feel free to continue eating or drinking whatever you have. I will then just look, and people can just continue streaming. Don't worry about interrupting. So actually, as I talk, feel free to ask questions or to make any not make comments, but probably ask a question. And also, if I ask you a question, if you will respond, that would be great. So, first of all, how many people actually can understand what the title of this talk is? Like, are there any words in here that don't seem to make sense? Okay, composite. Okay, I'll explain what that will be. Anything else here that's unfamiliar to you? Okay. Aquifer. Okay, that's something I will explain briefly. Anything else?
What is the reference?
Okay, that's a reference text. Okay, good. I was anticipating a lot of those questions, and so I actually have slides to deal with them. So I'm on the right track there. Now, unlike Dan, I don't have pictures of Scully and Mulder. So instead, I have a picture of me and my colleague. I'm Randall Tan, and I'm currently working with the ETEN Innovation Lab on some strategic projects, including these reference texts that we're going to talk about today. And my colleague, Rick Brennan, he's the senior data architect with BibleNexus. He actually did most of this work. So he's kind of the, if we were to continue with the analogy of the special agents with Mulder and Scully, he's actually the Scully, the one that's actually the scientific one that's actually checking all these things and doing that work. So unfortunately, Rick was not able to be here. So I actually had to present his work. And when I actually say we for most of this presentation, usually it's actually Rick. But it's easier for me to not always strictly say he and all that. So first of all, some of you don't know what the Bible Aquifer is. So the Aquifer is an effort by the ETEN Innovation Lab and BibleNexus to provide a repository of openly licensed resources that equip translation teams. And Aquifer actually is the idea of Tim Jory, who's actually back here, if you know Tim. So Tim Jory back there is the one who came up with this idea. And actually, then you might also have heard of the translation resource ecosystem. So sometimes the terms can be intermixed, but essentially, the Aquifer is part of this larger ecosystem of translation resources that we're trying to provide free and unrestricted Bible translations and study resources in all the world's major languages. You might ask, well, why? Why is the Innovation Lab doing this? Aren't there a lot of resources out there that are available? Well, we want to actually radically broaden church involvement in Bible translation. So we're trying to equip the church, and we want to maximize the use of technology to accelerate excellence in Bible translation. Those are the broad goals. What are the specific goals for the Aquifer? Well, we need openly licensed biblical resources, text, audio, video, all these things that go together that will be able to provide good resources in all the widely used gateway languages, not just English. And then we want to be able to enable the translation teams from Global Church to better understand and have the ability to translate well and also faster. Then one other question that may come to your mind is, well, actually there are a lot of resources already out there. You might actually be aware of biblical studies resources like Logos Bible Software. You have a lot of ministries that provide a lot of resources. Why are we making this effort? So we specifically mentioned free licensed resources because we are trying to have resources that are not only free, but actually with no restrictions or very, very few restrictions. So there are essentially 3 licenses that are considered open licenses. There's CC0, dedication to public domain, where there are no restrictions. Essentially, it's everyone's. It belongs to everyone. And then there is Creative Commons Attribution, CC BY, where you need to give credit to the creator's content. And then CC BY SA, Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike, where you want to give credit, and also any things you make from it, any adaptations or derivatives that are downstream for the original work, likewise need to be openly licensed on the same CC BY SA license. So that's what we mean by open resources. Okay, I've gone through quite a bit for those who are not aware of the Aquifer already. So you have the attempt to give biblical resources, Bible translations as well as resources that are openly licensed. And then within these, there are actually Bible translations that we still need for some major languages. So teams often rely on trustworthy gateway languages in some of these major languages when they translate the minority languages. If you're working in North Africa, you might need a French reference Bible. If you're working in Latin America, in South America, you might need Spanish, Portuguese. And in Papua New Guinea, you would need a Tok-Pisin reference. And for this specific subset, the Bible translations that the Aquifer still needs, we've identified basically 5 that we still need these translations for. These are some major ones. So French, Spanish, Portuguese, as well as Bislama and Tok-Pisin. So some of these actually still lack a modern, openly licensed, trustworthy Bible translation. And today we will focus specifically on Tok-Pisin, but actually Rick has been working on all these languages as well. So that took about 7 minutes. Now let's go straight into what we're doing on Tok-Pisin. So to orient you, Papua New Guinea is just above Australia, and it's a gateway language of about 800 languages. There is actually an existing Bible translation. So the reason why we're building another one is actually because there are barriers to access, specifically that there's a no derivatives and non-commercial restriction. So essentially, you can only view this Bible, you can't make any changes to it, and if you were to make a copy, you can't charge money for it. That actually causes some issues when you're trying to share, use these Bibles on the ground in specific places. They might actually need to, say, share things with SD cards or different ways in which they may need to charge something to get back the cost of what you're doing. So non-commercial can cause some problems if you need to do some degree of money exchange, and then not being able to build derivatives. That means that you can't even, say, make an audio Bible out of it or change it in other ways. So that can be an issue. So we need to then actually have a non-restricted, open licensed Tok-Pisin Bible. So there's 2 main routes we can go about this. So Rick looked at all these cases, and we could either revise an existing Bible, or we can just generate a new one with AI. And I list here some of the prerequisite considerations. Basically, if we have one that's already open or public domain, but there's some issues with it, maybe it's too old, maybe it needs some revision, let's go ahead and modernize it, revise it, simplify it, use LLMs or AI methods, and we can get there. Actually, probably faster. But if there's no existing Bible that we can use in that way, then we might try an LLM to just generate a new text, or we can try some other machine translation model to translate from, say, English or another Bible. So you can try to translate from a major language model. For Tok-Pisin in particular, we face a dilemma on what path to take. So there is actually no suitable open or public domain Bible we could use as a starting point. And then LLMs actually, while there's some support for Tok-Pisin, we tested it and it didn't actually work that well out of the box. So what did we do? Well, Rick then chose to create a new translation. And he used specifically two models. He fine-tuned them with various sets of data. He used the NLLB 200 and also the Opus MT. And Rick, being the person that the thorough person he is, he wanted to make sure we had the best data available to fine-tune this. So he went through a lot of trouble to find the best sentence pairs that he could get from various sources. So he got them from Bible stories, reference resources, a visual storytelling resource, even a Deuterocanon from the existing Bible Society of Papua New Guinea's Bible. That's basically the extra-canonical from the Protestant perspective books. And then the Wycliffe Associates Top-Precision Bible translation. And because he was able to get about 40,000 sentence pairs, he didn't need to generate any synthetic data using AI. So all this was existing data that's been done by humans. All right. Let me pause there real quick to see if there's any questions before I dive into each of these data sets. Any questions or comments so far? Is everybody tracking?
There was a talk to the model already. Why create one?
A very good question. So I will get to that in about 5 slides. But actually, I hinted at that previously where we were saying that there's probably some kind of issue in this case. So we said the problem either is open license, or maybe it's too old, or there's some issue with the existing Bible. So I'll get more into that in a few slides. Yes?
There are, you mentioned that there's a need for Spanish, Portuguese, Islam, are there needs for other gateway? Has anybody identified needs for suitable levels of other gateway languages also?
That has been an effort by the Innovation Lab, and actually Tim would be the person to ask because he's been over that for this whole time. And so he can be able to tell you, for a lot of languages, he and his team and others at the Innovation Lab has been able to identify suitable Bibles. It's just there's certain ones where suitable Bibles were not found. And so those are the ones that were put on the screen. There were essentially 5 left for this set. I think there's others too that you're in planning further down the road. All right. To make sure I don't go all the time, I'll continue on. So let's look specifically at the data sets that we were looking at, that we used. So there's the Unfolding Words, Takpisin, Open Bible Stories. So we were able to match these with equivalent paragraphs. There's an English version of the Open Bible Stories. And so once we knew that this paragraph in English, this paragraph in Takpisin is basically the same, just make sure we match the sentences. So we were able to use NLTK to match the sentences. And then we used a score to figure out what were the best matches and just took the best matches. The matches that weren't so good, we just discarded, just to make sure we didn't have bad data. This produced about 1,100 sentence pairs that we were able to use. Then there was actually also the Aquifer, or the effort that Ben Emgard back there has been leading. There's been translations, human translations of various resources from English to Takpisin. So these include some articles from the Tyndale Bible Dictionary, and then also some oral Bible translation FIA materials. Actually, we heard about the FIA materials. So they were basically these materials that are used to help with internalization of oral Bible translation. So there's been translations that have been done for these materials, and we were able to find sentence pairs. And this produced about 2,600 sentence pairs. Thirdly, we were able to use SL's Bloom dataset, and these were able to split by paragraph, the sentence by paragraphs by sentence, and compare to each English sentence to Takpisin, and we got about 1,200 sentence pairs. Then the existing Bible, you mind mentioning, from the Bible Society of Papua New Guinea, because we found that NLLB had already been trained in the Old Testament and New Testament, we didn't use those. It's already in there. So we used the Deuterocanon instead, that apparently was not part of the training data for NLLB. And we found about 4,150 sentences that we could use. Last but not least, there was the Wycliffe Associates Takpisin translation of Unlocked Literal Bible, and this addresses your question as well. So besides the Papua New Guinea one, because of open license, there's also the Wycliffe Associates one. Why do we not use it? Well, it's actually quite helpful. We were able to get 30,000 sentence pairs from it. There are some issues with being a little too literal, and then there are some quality issues we think we can actually improve on. So we decided to, instead of using it as a starting point, use it to train our data. It's training data. So as a result then, we have our two models, NLLB and OpusMT, and we did 2 fine-tuning rounds. So because the Tok-Pisin Bible from Wycliffe Associates gave us 30,000 pairs, we decided to see, let's do 1 round without it, and the second round with it. So we have a fine-tuned round with 10,000 sentence pairs, excluding the Wycliffe Associates Tok-Pisin Bible, and a 40,000 sentence pair round that is fine-tuned XL, extra large fine-tune. And we did it with both models. Now, I think I still have time, so this is what, at this point, we've explored. So there may be actually better models we haven't thought of. So if there's any suggestions, be sure to actually let us know, either now, feel free to make a comment, and since it's recorded, I'll make sure Rick sees it, and then that he explores these models. So any suggestions right now about any other models or alternative techniques we could have tried?
It's not a suggestion,
Yes.
Randall, it's just curiosity. I've been following what Rick's been doing on no laser to XPI, because he made it for a while. So do you have an idea of what kind of machine power would he use, or what capacity he needed for it?
Oh, very good question. So Rick actually decided to just do it on his laptop. So when he started these experiments, he just used a normal laptop with no GPU. And he was able to do all these things. Now, recently he got access to a GPU, so he's able to do these faster, and he can use larger models now. But when he started, it actually wasn't necessary. He could just use a normal laptop.
And did you have a quantified model of the 6 million, or which quantified model did you use?
Yeah, he used the distilled 600 million model.
The full set, unquantified.
We have to clarify with him. I don't remember him saying whether he used that.
So that's rather big.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, sorry about that. I couldn't answer that question. Yes, Marcus.
What did you use as a holdout set for validation?
Yes, that's a good question. So let me hold that for now and then see if some of the later slides actually help satisfy this question. But if not, then I may have to refer you to Rick. Yes?
Did you get any feedback from the Tok-Pisin speakers about how they affected the model?
Very good question. Actually, we're going to address that very soon. Okay. Let me, and one more? Yes?
I take it these are the only 2 models that Rick, that you really pushed in on? Okay.
So far, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so he could have used bigger models and used other models, but he's trying to see, can we actually get decent results with these smaller models? Once we actually know that it actually works, our techniques are refined a little bit, we may then say, okay, let's use the best model we can, and then actually invest in that. So these are really initial experiments. All right, I'm going to move on right now. So, besides, we know here the models he used, we know the different data sets that he used for fine-tuning. Then to measure the sentence similarities, what he actually ended up using was actually the Sonar 200 text encoder and the modern BERT Arabic embedding. LabC actually didn't work because it did not support Tok-Pisin. And again, let me just pause quickly. If there's anybody that quickly knows if there's anything we can use for Tok-Pisin for measuring, please let us know. If you know it already, you can speak up right now. All right. Yeah, just let Rick know when you think of something. So we have models, we have measuring, we have fine-tuned data. So what do you actually use to translate? So he tried it on these open editions. These are existing English texts that are openly licensed that we tried. So there's Berean Standard Bible. I'll use these acronyms later on, just for easier to say. So you may or may not remember these, but basically these refer to these English Bibles. So Berean Standard Bible, BSB, Bible in Basic English, BBE, Open English Bible, OEB, Unlocked Literal Translation, ULT, and Unlocked Simplified Translation, UST. All right. Is everybody actually familiar with these English Bibles? Okay. I didn't think everybody would be familiar with all of them. So just to give a brief kind of overview of the landscape, basically BSB and ULT are more literal translations, maybe somewhere between ESV and NIV. The OEB is actually probably still a little more, it claims to be more dynamic literal, but it's actually kind of formal, kind of like in our RSV. So I think it's also still somewhat literal and specifically formal as well. The UST BBE, simple English, relatively modern. The UST actually has bracketed explanatory additions. I think it's actually explaining to you what a word means instead of just translating directly. So we generated top-person translations from these 5 English translations, and we compared it then to the 2 human-created Bible translations in top-person. And surprisingly, and this addresses Kristen's question, surprisingly, a top-person informant preferred one of our machine-generated translations to the 2, even over the 2 human-created translations. So this was actually the translation with Berean Standard Bible, BSB. It was ranked higher, the highest, and it's ranked even preferring over the 2 human-created translations. And besides asking a human speaker, we actually also asked ChatGPT, what do you think of these translations? Actually, it chose also the BSB. Now, the human-created translations were pretty high too, but it actually ended up below BSB. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that what we have is better yet, but it's pretty encouraging as a start for an experiment. Now, since the BSB came out first in this experiment, then we continued our experiment using BSB. So then we translated several NT books, and we used 6 versions of these models. So basically the stock unfine-tuned versions, NLLB and Opus NT, the ones that fine-tuned with 10,000 sentences, and then the extra large fine-tuned with the 40,000 sentences that include the Wycliffe Associates Bible. When we compare these then with the human translations, the Bible Society of Prophet English Top-Person, and also with the English BSB, the original source. So we were trying to compare, this is kind of a way in which Rick was trying to make a comparison to address kind of Marcus's question. Now, I know these are not very viewable slides. I just want to give credit that as we are doing this work, we made use of existing sources as we were going to compare the results. So we did things like we actually exported the information into SFM and then imported in paratext so we can actually see side-by-side comparisons. We also looked into it in Aqua, and Dan Whiteneck actually, that was on the stage today, he was actually the original person that came up with Aqua. So these Aqua heat maps are actually quite helpful too for comparing these translations at the verse and book level. We looked at also these translations in the Greek Room, another tool that Joel Matthew actually worked on. So these are actually quite helpful. But can we go further? Well, Rick came up with another idea. Beyond comparing each verse against each other, can we actually generate, why not use all the translations in a given model family to create the best composite translation? So this is where the title of this presentation comes from, the composite translation. Can we take the best of what we can get from generating with different models, different data sources, analyzing through human feedback, analyzing through even LLMs human feedback? Can we then combine these? So he tried 2 things so far. Option 1, he basically did a composite translation comparing things like blue, CHRF, and semantic similarity with translation source, and semantic similarity to a gold standard. So these are some standard ways in which for those of you not familiar, to measure in machine translation quality. So he compared it with the Bible Society's Top Piston Bible, a human-created one as the gold standard, and then selected the best scoring ones based on the composite score for a verse. Now, just to be transparent, we haven't had human feedback yet. So this is something that we need to get more human feedback on. And I actually don't show you the scores here because at this point it's not that necessarily that helpful. But we do have the scores and we're awaiting feedback. So that's one way to do this composite, get all these scores and find the best composite translation format. Option 2, this is something that Rick looked at recently. Let's just have ChatGPT 4.0 Mini go evaluate these things and tell us why it preferred different parts of the different translations. So basically, we broke up the translation into phrasal components, and then we asked GPT to select the best phrasal components, and then tell us why did you choose it. So this is I don't know, maybe barely readable. So there's a couple sections here from Titus 1:5 where you can see how this worked out. So I won't read the top piston, but basically this first part of the top piston, GPT says, translates to the reason I left you in Crete was that you would set in order what was unfinished. And it says the phrase, I left you in Crete clearly indicates the action and location. Okay, makes sense. While to set in order what was unfinished effectively conveys the purpose of action. Okay, that sounds convincing to me. Now we need top piston speakers to verify this. All right, then second section. Okay, this means, and appoint elders in every town as I directed you. The phrase, appoint elders in every town, accurately reflects the directive given. Yeah, that's true. And then it says, as I directed you, clearly indicates the source of instruction. Okay, sounds good to me as well. So this is kind of an initial way to evaluate without top piston speakers. And then we actually then need top piston speakers to give feedback. Another thing we can do right now is we can actually do some kind of apparatus. And if you're actually in Google Studies, you're familiar with apparatuses. If you're not, you're not. Basically, it's a way, or if you're in software, then you're just doing diff. Basically, you're doing a diff, you're doing a comparison, you're trying to figure out where the differences and what was taken. So we got NLLV stock, fine-tuned, and fine-tuned XL. Which ones did they take? Well, I just underlined a couple places where, okay, the XL version, there's 2 words where it's different from what they chose. Oh, actually, I see they actually ended up choosing the fine-tuned version and not the stock one or not the XL version. So this is another way in which we can do a comparison. All right, let me stop there to make sure. Let's see. Oh, I'm almost out of time. Let me not stop there. Okay, so future steps. So let's explore. So what we've done so far is pretty preliminary. And we definitely need a lot of feedback. So if any of you have more feedback on the models, data we can use, or even if you have top piston speakers you can connect us with, we definitely would appreciate your help. So there are future things we're planning to do. We want to adjust, edit, and revise these composite translations, and there's some data sets additionally. These are more references that we can use to improve this. So we can check proper nouns. For example, there's a data set that can help track, see the proper nouns are translated properly. We can check how it's translating figures of speech, metaphor, and idioms. We can check for difficult words. And we can even look at, okay, is it actually quoting material properly, opening quotes, closing, stuff like that. So there's existing data sets that have been done by Unfolding Word, by VivoNexus, by Biblica, and others that we can take advantage of to do this. So I have 1 minute, so I can happy answer any question you have in 1 minute. But if you have further questions, especially the most technical ones, I encourage you to contact my colleague Rick Brandon at this email, and we will get back to you. But thank you very much. And let me see, anybody have a quick question in 1 minute? Yes?
Yeah, have you thought of, in your quality technique, splitting on the discourse portion, the discourse separating portions, and then when you have your composite, saying this in English or whatever, this discourse makes this argument and goes in this structure, is that
Yes, that's a very good question. So, are you aware of any good resources that help us kind of figure out what the discourse units are? Let's talk about that, because I think that's actually something we can also compare. So, yeah, one of the things I actually found with what LLMs produce is that they might make sense at the phrase level, might make sense at the clause level, even the sentence, but then maybe at the discourse level it doesn't connect very well. So that's something we need to address. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Yes?
The SIL has the semantic structure analysis.
Yes.
What's the New Testament?
Yes, the SLLs.
Discourse, Hebrew Bible, and other things that are broken out into the structure, different formats.
Yes. Yes, I'm aware of those. So if we can actually have those in such a way that either we can, if it's open license, or if we actually have explicit permission to use them, where it doesn't cause an issue that the final product is open license, then definitely we want to use that. I think I am out of time. So thank you for your attention. I'll let the next breakout be able to begin. So thank you very much.